At the age of 34, I'm employed at a manufacturing plant. Each year, I manage to squeeze in a couple of vacations and occasionally indulge in fishing on the few weekends I find free. I tied the knot quite early and spent 14 years of my life with my wife. Shortly after returning from military service, I met her and instantly fell head over heels. However, I must confess, suspicions about her fidelity began to gnaw at me almost from the start. Right off the bat, she had left a buddy of mine in the dust for me. At that point, it crossed my mind that perhaps things were aligning a bit too conveniently. Sure, I had lost a friend, but seemingly one over a sweetheart, or so I believed at the time. Over the years, whispers and murmurs would occasionally reach my ears. Those in her inner circle often remarked, "She's out of your league," or "She doesn't quite measure up to you." Eventually, it became apparent that her world revolved entirely around superficial matters. Substantive conversations with her were virtually non-existent. Every time I returned home exhausted from work, she bombarded me with a slew of mundane issues. Urgent tasks, like needing to replace the wallpaper or rearrange the furniture yet again. In addition, she struggled to secure employment, perpetually claiming that potential employers hesitated to hire her out of fear she might take maternity leave soon. I can't claim that our lives were steeped in misery. Indeed, the period before our first child arrived was quite exhilarating. We had the liberty to take short trips to different cities, refreshing ourselves and breaking the monotony of daily life. Yet, the moment my daughter entered the world, I found myself back in the grind, working solo once more. Now, I had to rake in enough for 3, myself and my 2 girls, so I dove into the hunt for part-time gigs. Meanwhile, she was busy juggling her time with our little one. It seemed the monotony of solo baby duty got to her, and before long, she befriended a couple down the street. They had a little one too, though theirs was already 4 years old. Our weekends quickly transformed into family get-togethers, and just like that, life shifted from dreary to dazzling. I was deep in conversation with her companion. I quickly discovered her intelligence and complexity. Strangely enough, we got along pretty well. She admitted to me that the relationship between her and her husband was a little strained. He was mostly unemployed and did not contribute financially. Meanwhile, my own wife became increasingly suspicious of the people I had recently met. I tried to keep my distance from them. At home, conversations kept returning to her desire to have another child, but I felt depressed and doubted my ability to cope with the additional responsibility. And suddenly, out of the blue, our friend called me and said, "You won't believe it, but my husband came home today with $200,000 and doesn't say where he got it from. You don't happen to know, do you? Perhaps he shared something with you in secret." I replied that I wasn't sure, and I just didn't have enough time to get into it. When I returned home, my wife hugged me around the neck, exclaiming, "We are expecting a baby, what?" I muttered. There was no way this could be true. I knew perfectly well that something didn't quite add up. I wandered around for a couple of days, not believing my eyes, thinking about it, but I just couldn't figure out how this could happen. And then it dawned on me. We had a joint account in her name, with a balance of $200,000. I asked her to send me a statement with a detailed description of the transactions from this account. Let me tell you that it was not an easy process. I had to make a scandal to get the information I needed, only to discover that our funds had disappeared from the account. It turned out that the transfer was made to our friend's husband. I invited these friends over for a chat and asked them directly what was really going on. What I found out shocked me. As it turned out, my wife was afraid that I would leave the family, so she paid our friend's asshole to conceive a child for her. As soon as everything worked out, they intended to marry the child to mine. To be honest, I'm a little used to my wife's weird antics. She has always been quite outspoken in communication. As I said, from the very beginning, I was preparing for one of her antics, and over time I just accepted that at some point she would cheat on me. Strangely enough, when the betrayal happened, I felt relieved, as if a huge weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. My pal was absolutely flabbergasted. Her spouse was aiming for quick cash, yet ultimately he ended up losing it all. I was fully aware that neither I nor she, given her temperament, could ever overlook such recklessness. It might sound like the script of a Hollywood movie, right? Well, nope, it's actually my reality. All this drama unfolded just 15 miles outside of Moscow, in a serene, leafy suburb where faces are familiar. Now it seems like half the town is buzzing with our tale, but honestly, I couldn't care less. I'm emancipated, and so is my friend. We're both poised to turn over a new leaf and begin afresh.